Hello, dear friends. Not all topics are pleasant, but it was about time to identify our annoying neighbors who had done so much damage to humankind, although it is true that not all the bad ones are bad, and not all the good ones are good, because there is a bit of everything, as in a pharmacy. Opinion article. Our lizard brothers. Report from the Daily Mail newspaper. Scientist talks about intelligent dinosaurs. Dr. Ronald Breslow believes they exist. It would be better not to know about them, says the scientist. They wouldn't have lost their hunger from fresh meat, in quotes. The dinosauroid concept stems from an investigation. David Icke is the greatest popularizer of the reptiloids. He believes some leaders are possessed by reptiles. Some royal families may be somewhat scaly. Zulu shaman Credo Mutwa spoke of their existence. Sheldan Nidle channeled messages from Belatricians. Dwight York said they live inside the hollow earth. Terracotta statuettes with lizard heads found. A lizard is a mischievous, devious, and greedy person. Let's start. Alien worlds could be filled with super intelligent dinosaurs. It is to say, life forms based on amino acids different from our own. A scientific study suggests. An American scientist has suggested that other planets could be populated by intelligent reptilians, but that it would be better not to meet them, because they may not be friendly, as reported by Rob Vaughan in the British newspaper Daily Mail. NASA Kepler telescope scans the skies for habitable worlds, but an American chemist has suggested that the whole project could be a terrible idea. Celebrated scientist Ronald Breslow suggests that life forms based on slightly different amino acids and sugars could take the form of huge, ferocious dinosaurs that have evolved to have human-like intelligence and technologies. We'd be better of not encountering them, says Breslow, who says it was a stroke of luck that an asteroid wiped out dinosaurs on Earth, leaving the field clear for mammals like humans. But did it wipe them out, or they live underground? In the dictionary of the language, a lizard means sly, crafty, and greedy person, or a thief who changes his dress so as not to be known, while a lagarto is a prostitute and a lagarterana is a lady from Lagartera, a town in the province of Toledo, Spain. Rosalia Sanz believes that Agartha is Lagarta, but it is only a personal opinion. All lizards can change color in response to their environment in times of danger. The most typical example is the chameleon, but more subtle color changes can also happen in other lizard species. The same could be said of human lizards, which change jackets easily to adapt to circumstances. Some species of lizards are able to break off and detach their tails when they are in danger or caught by a predator. This ability is called autonomy, and is due to the presence of special breathing planes of the caudal vertebrae. After autonomy, the tail regenerates, but the new tail is not identical to the lost one. In fact, the vertebrae cannot regenerate and are replaced by a non-segmented cartilaginous tube. The most widely used example is the salamander, and its capacity for medical applications is being studied. Question of amino acids. Dr. Ronald Breslow believed that a slight tweak in amino acids could mean that life on other worlds evolved very differently. On other worlds, dinosaurs could have evolved into huge, intelligent warriors armed with high-tech weaponry, but without losing their hunger for fresh meat. Of course, says Breslow, showing that it could have happened this way is not the same as showing that it did happen. One implication of this work is that elsewhere in the universe there could be life form based on D amino acids and L sugars. These life forms could well be advanced versions of dinosaurs if mammals were not lucky enough to have the dinosaurs wiped out by an asteroid collision, as on Earth, we'd be better off not encountering them. In the report, Ronald Breslow, physical doctor, discusses the centuries-old mystery of why the building blocks of terrestrial amino acids, which form proteins, sugars, and the generic materials DNA and RNA, exist primarily in one orientation or shape. There are two possible orientations, left and right, which mirror each other in the same way as hands. For life to arise, proteins, for example, must contain only one chiral from an amino acids, left or right. Asteroid. Such life forms could be advanced versions of dinosaurs if mammals were not lucky enough to have the dinosaurs wiped out by an asteroid collisions as on Earth, says Breslow. With the exception of a few bacteria, the amino acids of all life on Earth have left-handed orientation, but most sugars have right-handed orientation. Breslow describes evidence supporting the idea that unusual amino acids carried to a lifeless Earth by meteorites some 4 billion years ago set the pattern for normal amino acids with all geometry, the type of terrestrial proteins, and how those could lead to DNA type sugars. The dinosauroid concept arises from research on theropod dinosaurs such as Trodon and Sauronitoides, since these animals possessed the largest brains compared to their body size of the Mesozoic period. Some have speculated that had they not become extinct, these animals would have been likely to evolve into a human life form. Reptiloids. The reptiloids, also known as reptilians, lizard men, saurians, or draconians, are humanoid reptiles that play a prominent role in fantasy and science fiction literature, ufology, and contemporary conspiracy theories. They would be called scaly humanoids. As a supposed origin, the evolution of an intelligent race on Earth parallel to humankind of extraterrestrial or intraterrestrial origin, supernatural entities of the remains of an ancient pre-human civilization has been posited. The Belatricians are supposed extraterrestrial race that are described as being with reptilian features, with a certain phosphorescent glow in their skin. They are orange or to yellow in color and wear space suits. The contactee Sheldan Nidle and his partner Cory Marshall claim to channel messages from the Belatricians to humankind. According to the couple, the Belatricians were a cruel race of galactic tyrants, now repentant and desirous of achieving peace and subsistence within the galaxy. Hence, their desire to correct the atrocities of the past and become responsible members of the Galactic Federation. They are famous within the conspiracy theory and known by many scholars of the UFO phenomenon, and they are a typology that presents most of their alleged appearances in the US. David Icke. The idea of reptilians was popularized by David Icke, a British conspiracy writer who claims that shape-shifting reptilians control the Earth, taking human form and gaining political power to manipulate human societies. Icke has stated on multiple occasions that some world leaders would be or are possessed by the so-called reptilians. Because of the work of the British writer David Icke, the figure of the reptilian has been reborn with considerable popularity, associating it with conspiracy theories of world domination by kings, heads of state, aristocracies, and financial magnates closely linked to Freemasonry. There is also the Kardashians' theory about the Anunnaki, that they were reptilians, although this writer is currently very questioned. According to David Icke, who first published on this subject in his 1999 work, The Greatest Secret, tall blood-drinking, shape-shifting reptilian humanoids from the Alpha Draconis star system, now hidden in subway bases, are the force behind the worldwide conspiracy against humankind. David Icke argues that most of the world's ancient and modern leaders are related to these reptiles, including the Merovingian dynasty, the Rothschilds, the Bush family, and the British royal family. Icke's conspiracy theories now have followers in as many as 47 countries, and he has lectured to crowds of up to 6,000 people. American writer Vicky Santillano included Icke's theory in her list of the 10 most popular conspiracy theories. A 2013 survey of Americans by Public Policy polling indicated that 4% of registered voters believed in David Icke's ideas. The Draconians were featured in the British science fiction television series Doctor Who. Their only television appearance to date was in the 1973 series Frontier in Space. Unlike many monstrous races in Doctor Who, the Draconians were articulated and portrayed as having sophisticated and advanced culture like feudal Japan. In his 1996 memoir of this time on Doctor Who, written just before his death, actor John Pertwee cited the Draconians as his favorite of all the monsters he'd have encountered during his time as the third Doctor of Doctor Who. Do they live underground? Dwight York, an American sectarian leader convicted of child sexual abuse, created a Wahhabism as a religion of black nationalism derived from the Nation of Islam. Within his doctrine, it is concluded, among other things, that different reptilian extraterrestrial species operate inside the Earth. The snake men of writer Robert E. Howard were described as humanoids with human bodies and snake heads, who were able to mimic humans at will, and who lived in subway passages and used their shape-shifting and mind-control abilities to infiltrate mankind. The movie Conan the Barbarian is based on Howard's books. In the 40s, Maurice Doreal, also known as Claude Doggins, wrote a libretto titled Mysteries of the Gobi that described a race of serpents with bodies like man but heads like a great serpent, and the ability to take human form. These creatures also appeared in Doreal's poem The Emerald tablets, in which he referred to the tablets written by Thoth, an Atlantean priest king. Bacon states that in all probability Dorial's ideas came from the kingdom of shadows, and that in turn the emerald tablets formed the basis of David Icke's book, Children of the Matrix. Archaeology. Terracotta statuettes have been found dating from 4,500 to 5,500 before Christ, belonging to the Elobate period in Ur between 1919 and 1922 during archaeological excavation directed by Henry Hall. Some are represented with a lasered head. Some authors, supporters of conspiracy theory or adherents to the theory of ancient astronauts, Anunnakis, rely on the existence of these figures to prove the thesis of the reptilians. In Europe, Gekrope I, the mythical first king of Athens, was half man and half snake. He is illustrated as an example in a frieze on the altar of Zeus in Pergamon. In ancient Egyptian culture, there are images of the crocodile-headed river god Sobek. In the Jewish and Christian cultures, in Genesis, it is related how Adam and Eve are seduced by the serpent to feed of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and as a consequence are expelled from Eden. There is also a clear allusion of the great dragon, the original serpent, Jesus' enemy, in the biblical book of Revelation. In Indian scriptures and legends, the Naga are described as reptilian beings that live away and interact with humans on the surface. In some versions, it is said that these beings once lived on a continent in the Indian Ocean, and that it sank into the waters. Texts from India also refer to the Sarpa. Dragon kings are creatures of Chinese mythology, sometimes depicted as reptilian humanoids. In the Far East, the Chinese, Vietnamese, Koreans, and Japanese speak in their history about Jong in Korean, Ryu in Japanese, or dragons, conceived in both physical and metaphysical forms, but rarely described in humanoid form. In Japanese folklore, there is a talk of beings such as the kappa, amphibious, aquatic demons with the appearance of a turtle and a bird's beak, and also of Orochi, a monstrous serpent similar to the western hydra. In America, there is Quetzalcoatl, the Nahuatl name of the deity described as the feathered serpent of ancient Mesoamerica. It is one of the main gods of or energies of many civilizations in what is now Mexico and Central America. The Quetzal has divine connotations in these civilizations and is related to the Kukulkan of the Maya and the Gucumat of the Quiche. The Kaiman Man is a legend that takes place in the riverside town of Plato, Magdalena, on the Caribbean coast of Colombia. It tells the story of Saul Montenegro, a man whose passion for spying on naked women condemned him to become a being with the body of an alligator and a human head. Plato celebrates the annual Alligator Man Festival. There is also a square and a monument in his honor, and that are a cultural heritage of the population. The legend of the Kaiman Man was immortalized in the song Se va el Caimán by José María Peñaranda from Barranquilla. Science fiction. The lizard cat Connors is a fictional character, a supervillain appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. The character is generally depicted as an enemy of Spider-Man in the year 2009. The Lizard was ranked 62nd of the top comic book villains of all times. In the stories, Dr. Connors was a genetic biologist who researched the ability of certain reptiles to regenerate missing limbs, in part to find a way to regenerate his right arm. After a test on himself, his DNA fused with that of the reptiles, and he was transformed into a violent humanoid with a skin, feet, tail, and head of a green lizard. It is worth mentioning that under his reptilian form, he regenerates his missing arm, losing it again once he returns to his original form. Although he is able to return to his human form, he suffers occasional attacks from his manifesting alter ego. In the TV series, the aliens are actually reptilians and have been for years infiltrating society, whether in governments, medicine, or business enterprises, and are now in the last stage of their plan to take over the planet. The Kardashians are an alien race in the fictional universe of a Star Trek television series. The Kardashian Union was introduced in the episode The Wounded of the series Star Trek The Next Generation. The Kardashians play a major role in the history of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. The Kardashians' home planet was Cardassia Prime in the Alpha Quadrant. The Unas, it means the first ones, are a race in the fictional Stargate universe whose members are large anthropomorphic primitive beings originating from the same planet as the Gold. The Skrulls are a fictional race of shape-shifting aliens that appear in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. The Skrulls first appeared in Fantastic Four #2 and were created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. They originated on the planet Skrulls, and their empire is located in the Andromeda Galaxy. The Chitauri are a fictional race of alien space shifters who appear in Marvel Comics Alternate Universe Ultimate Marvel publications in the Ultimates Limited series. They were created by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch, but the famous Zulu sorcerer from South Africa, Credo Mutwa, told David Icke of their real existence. The Narn are a fictional alien species from the universe of the science fiction saga Babylon 5, starring in the series. The Dirdir are a fictional alien species appearing in the Chai Cycle books created in 1968 by Jack Vance. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.